the Governor General. Governor General. Who was the first Governor General? Warren Hastings. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
This is the beginning of British rule in India. Now, the war we are talking about, basically, this is the War of Independence, right? The War of
Independence.
Good. The War of Independence. Now, the War of Independence was in 1857, right? Now, from 1784 to 1857, British formal rule started in India, and this is the areas which are under British control, so we refer them as British India. If you remember, I many a time use the word British India. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
British India refer to the areas which were under British control because the entire India was not under their control till this war 1857. And we discussed that in this period of time when British were expanding in India, so the areas which were under their control by now or coming under their control, they introduced their laws, and this is the example one law as I told you here. Then they continued, like they introduced reforms or policies in the India controlled by them, reforms or policies, and these reforms or policies basically resulted in the war by the Indian. Now this is what we're going to discuss, that is the causes of the war. So basically you should know that the causes of the War of Independence were British policies which they introduced in India, British India, which caused resentment and hatred amongst the Indian. This is the entire concept. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the causes basically refer to the reforms or policies. I'm just writing here. The reforms or policies introduced by British in the areas under their control, which we call British India, under their control. So these were the causes. Now, how British reform became the causes, or British policies became the causes. Reforms or policies mean that the way they ruled India, British India. So their reforms and policies basically resulted in hatred. They affected Indians. Affected. We'll discuss how affected, and the consequence was hate, resentment, and this kept growing with the passage of time over the period of time, and finally the situation developed to the extent that Indians finally sort of into war with the British. So that is known as the War of Independence. So War of Independence is basically an other resistance by the Indian against British rule. Resistance. Now you remember resistance, we use this word many times, resistance.
Yes, sir.
Can you give me any other example of resistance than the War of Independence?
Or like resisting arrest.
Resisting what?
Arrest.
No.
Sir,
Any other example of resistance against British rule from the Indian side? Yes, Tipu Sultan, thank you very much. Tipu resisted. Nawab Sirajuddaula, we discussed those wars already. Those were basically.
Sir, did Tito Mir also oppose?
Yeah, Tipu, many Titu Mir, Sikh, Marathas, Tipu. So those were all resistance to the British against their occupation of India. And there we usually use the word Tipu. We said Nawab Sirajuddaulah, or we talk of a community like Marathas. Here we are using the word Indians. This was Indian. So this was comparatively larger resistance, and this was by the Indians, so across religions, Hindus, Sikh, Muslims, and across communities. So this was, you can understand that slowly and gradually among the Indian, there were an awareness that British were occupying them, and on the other hand, this was the the way they then directly affected by their policies. So they finally stood up against the British. So this is another resistance. This is not a new thing. The, the, the topic is almost the same. That is British expansion in India going on, and the areas came under their control. Now they introduced policies, etc. And resistance they met before of Tipu, Marathas, etc. They were able to, and this proved to be the resistance by the Indian, a massive one, you can say, as compared to the previous, but it was still not a huge one in reference to India's population or what we say the area. So this was massive. This was bigger than the previous ones. Is it clear what was independence?
Yes, sir.
So whenever there is a question that what was War of Independence 1857, so you will simply say that it was the Indian who stood up against British occupation of India, one line concept. And if the question comes, what was the causes of the war? So you will say the way British ruled India, their policies. How? Because they affected Indians and resulted in hatred. So this is called concept. Now we will be talking about those policies in particular, and we will also develop the fact that how did those policies affect Indians, commoners, and then there was a support for this war from the Indians in general. So now we'll see those policies of the British. So first of all, if you follow me with me from the book, so we can easily do this part. This is 27 page, and it is written like a heading political. Did you see this?
Yes, sir.
Now, British introduced many measures, but here we are only as you know now. This is also like as yesterday I told you that 7-mark question. So there is a one argument, one reason, and then explanation. Do you remember this part, this point? Right?
Yes, sir.
Please
Yes.
respond quickly, so that we not be wasting time, or else I will be using your break then. Okay, now see, in 14-mark question, this was very important point. That's why in 14 marks question, as you know that usually we have many, what you say, reasons or factors, points, whatever you call them, for a topic. Like there are more than 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In 7-mark question, as I told you last day, that examiner just asks you why did something happen, and you pick 3 reasons. From where you pick 3 reasons, this is like what our whole topic is about. Now in 14-mark question, or be it 7-mark question, the one thing is there that we have a argument, a point, and we need explanation. So this is the core. Now here it is, we say that political reforms of the British or political policies of the British resulted in hatred. So here the same thing, the same logic what I told you last day goes, like when I'm preparing, reading, consulting notes, I can do it like this. Okay, Politica, let's find the evidence for this. Did you get the point? That while preparing, you can do the same exercise while reading, while just, even if it is your first reading, you can do the same thing, and you will be actually preparing for your exam and homework and assignment and all that. Now let's see political. So first evidence I see here on line number 2, which says the doctrine of lapse. So it is easy to understand because the doctrine of lapse is already done. Doctrine of lapse, because we have discussed. Now it would be easy for you to develop the fact, because this is the evidence. Doctrine of lapse is the evidence. Now, as you know, if you remember, I don't know, that doctrine of lapse introduced by the British in 1852, and this said that if any princely state rulers who joined British willingly and agreed and signed agreement with them, if any of the rulers of any of those states dies, and that ruler doesn't have any son, real heir to the throne, then what will happen to that state?
It will go under British control.
It will be taken over by the British. Yeah, British will take over directly. Under this doctrine, in 1856, British took over Oudh. That is, now this, and this was like resented, hated by the Indian, and they considered British as greedy land grabbers. Now you see, by being very brief, I have written this like just 3, 4, 5 words, and this is my whole evidence with explanation, with interpretation, that how was this resulted in hatred and war. Did you get the whole stuff here?
Yes.
Now let's this is the doctrine of love, 1852, 1806 Oudh I wrote. Now I made this an argument in exam or homework assignment. I would say that the introduction of doctrine of lapse by British in 1852 also resulted in resentment and hatred against them by the Indian, because they believe that this is their other way to take over Indian land, as they said. Now you can introduce the doctrine of lapse briefly, that they will take over if a ruler doesn't have a real heir, and in this connection they took over Oudh in 1856. So that is a complete evidence, and I have interpreted evidence in reference to the war, that how it affected Indian and how it resulted in hatred, resentment, which finally was the war. This hatred and resentment was basically the feeling developing during this period of time and the result of war. When I say hatred or resentment, so it means that I'm talking about that this resulted in war. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, second paragraph, if you quickly see, I'm telling you how to read and make points as well, so that in your future all sort of reading and assignment, this is how you can be brief and you can write points, and this is how you can do once reading from the book, and you can cross that page, and you can even, I won't say it, but you can even like throw that page away if you have done like this way. Later on, this will be your only source to consult, and book goes out. I will not be reading book again for this political. How? Like I've done one. Now I'll say the mistreatment of the Mughal Empire was another issue of unrest. So you understand. 1857, Emperor had little power left, but was an important symbolic figure. Dalhousie's decision to move the royal family from Red Fort of Delhi to more obscure Qutub Sahib was seen as symbol of disrespect. So I will use this point as disrespect of Mughal Emperor. Now you can write the way you understand. I would understand like this way: disrespect of Mughal Emperor. I can be little brief for later reference, because sometime you at the spot understand and later on maybe you are in need of more detail. So disrespect of Mughal emperor. This, if this is enough for me to recall the whole this event, fine, or otherwise I can put more detail by Dalhousie. Okay, in 1857, forced royal family from Red Fort to move to Qutub Sahib. Okay, now this point I can be like this much brief, I can put some more detail into, and next time I will recall from here. So my one evidence, my two evidences that how these moves resulted in war. Next, you see at a lower level in society there was resentment at the lack of opportunities for native Indian in civil services. Added to this, English had replaced Persian as official language of the administration and the language in which education would be given. Now, 2 points are here. Number one, I will say simple point, lack of opportunities for native Indians in civil services. English was introduced in 1835, not mentioned, but I'm telling you, in 1835 as the language of administration. So official language, you can say, official language and medium of instruction in schools, a medium of instruction in education. Now, this is how we write, we read and write. This is called what is called reading and taking notes. Now, if you have followed me properly, you tell me that do I need to read book for this political reason again?
No, sir.
No. Okay, now I'm done with the book once for all, and this is with me. Next time, if I have to prepare anything, this serves the basis. I believe that this part is the core. The rest is all the outcome of the outcomes. Whether you are writing for homework, exam preparation, all that, because once you know the pattern, you can easily write the answers. This is like gathering information, and later on you be able to recall the information, which is 64% of your syllabus requirement. Like rest is automatic. This is the core. Now see here that next time, let's suppose now I spend 10 minutes on this, and an average 10 minutes reading, writing, maybe 10, maybe 15, whatever. Next time when I need to look at this, I need to use this, how many minutes I will be spending?
2 or 3.
2 to 3 minutes. Very good. 2 to 3 minutes. But if I read now, spending 10 minutes, and I don't do this exercise, next time for homework I will again do for 10 minutes. Next time for exam I will again do 10 minutes. So what I'm doing, actually I am doing the labor over and over again for the same thing. This is called hard work. You are working hard, that is great, hard work, but it is not smart. So you can get things done, more things done, by doing smart work, following hard work. But if you are not smart enough, you will keep doing hard work and having less things done. So this is what I wanted to explain as well. Rest I will go through quickly. Is it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
And if you follow this method for each and every chapter, I'm saying topic, and you will end up with bunch of loose sheets. I would recommend that you can take 3-4 sheets as much required and write the like topic, like this is the War of Independence. You can mention the page book 27 to whatever it is ending to 33, okay, and a heading, and then follow this. Rest you don't need book for this chapter, you need only this bunch of 2-3 sheets and your work is done. You are done with 60-70% of your work. Rest is all easy. Why people stuck in? Because over and over they do the same thing and they say like it is difficult, it is not, I'm not able to recall, I'm confused, there are dates. No, it is not. It is that you lack in understanding how to do it. One simple, there you go, once done, it's done forever. Next time very easy. So please follow everyone this method. I did practice with you yesterday. I spent a lot of time in making you understand how to write a question, 7-mark question, and today I told you the core, like this is how you can actually prepare. Even while doing this, you have done one argument. Now, if it is a pair in 7-mark, 14-mark question, you have to do this only: statement, explanation. So you are actually preparing your answer at the same time, exactly, and knowing the evidences and all. And if you write all of these evidences and with this adding all that, outcome is 100 out of 100. Done?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How many are going to follow this regularly for each and every topic? How many? Only one? Raise your hand, raise your
Yeah.
hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. By this way, I'll be able to see also that who is in the class paying attention. Okay, Arslan Abbas is not raising hand. Daniel, you were absent yesterday as well. No response yesterday. I have your name with me of yesterday class. Okay, these three students now: Muhammad Hassan, Hassan Abid, okay, Hassan Abid and Zian Kaleem. Hassan, Muhammad Hassan, are you here? And Zayan, are you here? If you guys miss lesson like this, then nobody can help you. Let me write their names. Uh, Yesterday, Daniel did not. Daniel, you are here today. You raise your. Where were you yesterday? Tell me, please, first. Daniel, we don't have all day. Like it's a very limited time. I
Sir,
have to.
these three boys never respond. Daniel, Hassan, and Zayan. They never respond. Daniel sometimes respond.
But he is not responding to me at all. So, Daniel, I'm writing your name again. Hassan, and then Zayan. So, okay. Uh, I need their contact numbers. Can you give me Abdurrahman
Yes, sir.
their contact number?
Sir, I don't have their
Okay,
contact
okay.
number.
I'll see if I'll check in the group. There is in the group, right?
Yes.
80 WhatsApp group. No issues. Okay, I'll see them later. Let's continue with our remaining courses. So thank you. Please follow this. It will help you a lot. Now going to the two second point here. Second point. Mute your mics now, everyone. Second point.
Sir, we can lower our hands, right?
Sure, it's tiring, I know. Please. Okay. Yeah. Now see two is religious and social. Now I'm explaining. You will be doing the way I have done here. Did you understand? By yourself. Did you understand what I said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so listen. Now only I'm telling you. In religion, what happened? That British allowed, or rather, patronize, helped Christian missionaries, the religious people of Christianity, to spread Christianity. Now, number one, Christianity was being spreaded by them. Christians had a lot of money because British had a lot of money, so they could they established Christian charity institution, and obviously attracting poor people, and they were converting into Christianity. So this basically um, like was fed by the Indians, Hindu, Muslim, Sikhs, and their religion was at threat. So number one, that British were supporting Christianity, and number two, that they did not patronize or support any local religion. So that is in religious matters how Indian felt threatened. Uh, then they considered, in social point of view, if we see that they considered Indians inferior as a race. They did not like to mix up with them. They did not give them equal status. They did not offer them job opportunities equal to British. That is one part of social discrimination. Secondly, they considered Indian culture inferior, Indian literature inferior. So they believe that whole of India's culture, its literature, its way of life, its people, all inferior, and they degraded them, and they did not mix and all that stuff. So that is another part, which was like obviously resulted in hatred from the Indian side. Then they westernized India, impose their own culture. Like language is one of the major source of imposing culture. When you learn another language, you are learning another culture. So they introduce English. So through that, they actually introduce their culture, their ways of life, and we still following that. Anyways, that's another debate, not now. So through their education, through their language, they introduced westernized Indian culture. They banned local cultures, like, which was on the other hand not very good rituals, but people, even if it was so inhumane or uh, like what we say nonsense, but still those people who are of the elect of the same culture, they like it, they do it. So they banned local culture rituals. They consider it inferior, and they believe that their culture is superior, so they try to westernize Indian culture. And then with the change of infrastructure like roads and transport and railways and all that, this was changing lives, telegraph and all that. So this all resulted where Indian felt insecure, humiliated, and discriminated. So culturally, socially, so there was a hatred, resentment, and resulted in war. That is social, and religion explain. Now what you have to do, go through and find point for religion by yourself like this, and social, like the points are the same which I have told you, but you have to write by yourself. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you haven't done for the previous chapters, okay, fine. You can do it later, but from today, you are going to start with page 27 of your book, chapter number 3, and this is the War of Independence. From here, you start doing this exercise of taking your own notes on any bunch of loose sheets. And once this chapter is done, then leave this bunch and go for the next chapter, chapter 4, the same way. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now economic. What measures did they take here, which resulted in hatred, resentment, and war? Now, they first of all that British traders had a great advantage over the Indians. how that British imposed heavy taxation on the Indians, on Indian products, whereas British products would freely move, no taxes on them. Number one. Secondly, British banned Indian doing trade in certain things like salt, and they did not let Indian industry to develop like textile industry. So what did they do? That they forced Indian to grow cotton, and they would take raw cotton, mean cotton, raw cotton, for their industry, and change it into the finished product, which is cloth, and sell to the Indian. So they will buy cheap cotton from the Indian, and they will send them and force them to buy their cloth, which was expensive. Uh, so, so by this way, they actually looted, plundered India, and then put heavy taxation on the Indians. And by this way, India industry did not develop, and Indian skilled workers who are very well off and very powerful community, they became poor laborers, because once you are not letting them develop their industry, and then they, what they will do, they will do just labor, ordinary tasks. So that was another thing. And then Indians were not paid, they were not offered jobs, as I discussed. They were not given any high ranks jobs, important jobs. So they were just offered lower ranks jobs, like office runner, ink pot filler, gardener, watch uh, keeper, like the very basic jobs they gave to me. So in all means they exploited Indian. So now you're gonna find these points, write it here. Number 4, policy of the British military. Now, what did they do in military? Just 1 minute. I know it's the time, but just 1 minute so we can finish this topic. Uh, Usually, I mean, Indians were offered just a basic rank, and that was of sepoys. Sepoys is a basic rank in army, which is foot soldier. So, uh, troops, and they were to fight. They were like basic rank were offered. They were not given officers ranks, and the even sepoys were not offered pay equal to their British sepoys counterparts. So that is one, like economic exploitation of military. Then spread of Christianity in military, and which was not liked by the Indian. So these were basically the measures which we were talking about, which is starting from political to social, religious, economic, military, and these all measures affected Indians and resulted in hatred and resentment and war. So we have discussed the causes of war, right? These were the causes of war, and they were basically British policy, and it resulted in the war. Next in war, we will discuss the events, and it failed actually. Indian did not succeed. We'll discuss why were the reason for the failure. So events mean what happened, the course of war, and failures, the cause, the reason for the failure. So this is the remainder of the topic up till page 28. This is just like you can see, it is 1.5 page. It may not take 30-35 minutes to write all the notes. If you do it today, I tell you that you did a great service to yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Okay, okay then. If it is yeah, it's a time. So thank you very much. All the best. And
Okay, sir. Allah Hafiz.
next time in the start of the class, you are going to tell me that, sir, I have done this note-taking part. Voluntarily, you're going to tell, right?
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah, Allah
Allah
Hafiz.
Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz.